Rob was a man who went to Africa afraid of death and came back from Africa completely terrified of death.
I knew Rob had played with Nerf guns when he was a kid.
Of course, we're all an amalgamation of different personalities, but Rob, more than anyone, changes himself completely once every 6 months to a year.
If he decides he's moving to Alaska and hunt bears, it will happen. That's what he's going to do. I love that whenever Rob truly finds something that he wants to do and makes a decision, there's no half-assed approach to it at all. He's 100% every time.
You know, I think I was like pretty much every other kid in the neighborhood. I had a couple of Nerf guns, maybe like 3 of them. And we played with them all the time until we lost all the darts. And then we'd still just run around and kind of chase each other and play, you know, Cowboys and Indians or whatever game. All the way up until I was about 12 or 13, I really liked them a lot. But when you're that young, like the money's not up to you. And once you lose the darts, you're kind of done with the situation. When I got to college, like there was just a bunch of kids who wanted to do stuff. And one night we just went up to Walmart and bought some Nerf guns and it kind of turned it into a thing. And then I just dove into that. I bought like 8 Nerf guns and there was a bunch of guys on my floor. And, you know, I kind of provide all the Nerf guns for everyone. We do some stuff with turn out the lights. There was some kind of public areas that we snuck around. We didn't really go outside the dorms, though. It was really just on our floor, maybe room to room, or we'd sit in the rooms and just shoot at each other. Anytime I wanted to do anything, I could walk out of my dorm room at 3 o'clock in the morning, there'd be a couple dudes just ready to do something. And so when I left the dorms, all that constant interaction just wasn't there anymore. And they got tossed into a box, and I just figured, you know, I guess that time of my life is over again. At one point in time, I'm like, hey, Ryan, in college I used to play Nerf. Like, I got a box of Nerf guns at my dad's house. You want to play with them? He's like, do it. Go. Bring them back. We start playing in the house, and we just kind of run around, shoot each other. Eventually, we developed some games. And it was great for a while. Like, there's probably 2 months where I wanted to play every day, and then it got a little stale, so we started playing upstairs. And then that got stale, and then we put lights up, and we turned the music up, and we took it as far as we possibly could. At one point in time, I knocked part of a wall out and added an additional door, so we could have 2 fighting walkways that went the entire length of the house. But it was inevitable that we were going to get tired of playing inside. And I knew at that moment, we have to expand or this is going to die. And that scared me. At that point, I was all in. Like, playing with Nerf just that couple of times, like, I started going to thrift stores. I was buying every Nerf gun I saw that I could get for $1. Pretty soon, my 8 Night Finders turned into 300 guns, and I had no place to put them. Like, I started just screwing them into the wall. I had to build gun racks for them, and then I just had buckets of them. I think that year, I must have spent 50 to 60 days outside with duck season and then the lake goose season. You know, all in all, life was generally good. I was hunting so much, and it was something I loved to do, and that kind of kept me out of ruts, even though I was in a pretty fragile state just from all the events of the past. And then I was with a large group of people hunting one day, and we were waiting for these birds to come in, and all of a sudden I just hear this weird noise, and someone had, I don't know how, but had just completely blown their hand off with a shotgun, and immediately I froze for like a half second. And then within a second later, his buddy was taking care of him, and the other guy that I was with, you know, he had the 4-wheeler, and you know, I was on the phone with 911 explaining it, and I'm just trying to keep my cool with it, but it immediately brought me back to everything that I hadn't dealt with the plane crash, and you know, within 5 minutes, like the guy was stabilized, everything was cool, there was an ambulance out there, and immediately I was like, I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna be okay. And everyone kept asking me like, you need to talk to someone. They had some counselors out there, and I'm like, no, I'm fine. I've dealt with this before. I got this one. I've been in a plane crash. This is small potatoes in terms of that. And I was full. I thought I could deal with it, but I didn't realize that when I had said that I dealt with the plane crash issues before, I had only like just put a cap over it. Like the iceberg was still hanging out down there, and I just kind of put a hat on the top of it where you couldn't see it. And it took me a little bit, but everything collapsed. That veneer was completely just crushed. And for the next 3 months, it was extremely dark. And so, like, all that stuff that had kind of been resolved, but not really, like, my fear of death was back. I couldn't do anything. Video games were back in full force. I just could not do anything. And in some respects, it was worse than the plane crash, because the plane crash happened and it was so fresh, and I was kind of a zombie. I was like, okay, I got this. But this one was just like, you got to do this. You got to deal with this now. I wasn't sleeping at all. It was just anxiety attacks constantly. I was working. I was trying to live my normal life. And despite all attempts to use the same tricks that I did after the plane crash, like, it just wasn't working. And I kept talking to Ryan about it, just like, there's no cure for what I got. I'm gonna die, I'm afraid I'm gonna die, I'm definitely gonna die. Like, who can fix that? Any conversation I'm gonna have with any counselor, there's no way they're gonna fix that. He's like, and Ryan tells me, this is not okay. You need to do this. You can't live like this. This is just gonna get worse and worse, and I just can't see you like this. And we found a place that was like kind of reduced price counseling that was like master students. And I walked in and I was like, okay, so this is everything that's happened to me in the past 3 years. And he just looks at me like, that sucks. Wow. We're not going to fix this all today. I'm not trying to fix this. We're here to discuss it. And I'm here to listen to you. And maybe if I got some stuff to tell you, we'll talk about that, you know? And I did that for probably about a month. And the guy was just super helpful. He shared some stuff about how he dealt with his fear of death too. It was really nice to have somebody who kind of got it. I don't know if there's a physical addiction to video games, but I've had to physically stop playing them multiple times in my life, and this was one of those times where I just said, no more. And then Ryan saw all the things that I was going through and was trying to plant some seeds that were like positive rather than modern warfare, and he put a paintbrush in my hand, and that crazy Rob brain got the idea, we're painting now, we're gonna be a painter, and I don't know what that means, but we're gonna do it. I had no idea what would happen. Within 6 months of that, my whole house was covered in just everything. Like, there was murals on every wall. I was just painting. If there was a blank surface, I was going to put something on it. I realized that anything I can do, I can reverse it. And with great power comes great responsibility. Like, you could just build a wall anywhere in that house and completely ruin the functionality of it. But I realized that there was just no rules anymore. And I texted Ryan. I was like, hey, Ryan, like, what would you think if we built a Nerf course in the backyard? He's like, okay, let's do it. And just a matter of fact, okay, that's a good idea. Every day I wanted to play, every week. And again, we were in the same situation where we were inside of, I am in love with this and I am going to just ride this until I get bored or find something better. Things got out of control quickly.
Oh, medic! Brandon, you're up. Medic!
Like, if you were going to count all the games you played at Thunderdome, what number is this?
Oh, 300? Let's do this. This is tower.
Okay. Elbow.
One day, Ryan walked around the backyard and he's like, Rob, what you building? I'm building a rolling death buggy. What is that? Okay, so I got some cable spools from the place I worked. And then I took 2x4s and some metal rods and basically built a rolling structure. At first it was just a platform. And then the next day I built a cage up around it with doors that you could enter into. And then we made a game type out of it. And it was called Death Buggy. And the objective of the game was to put someone in the buggy and then push them all the way down the field. And if the person pushing got shot, he would have to stop pushing and the buggy could not move anymore. And you could only tag the person on the inside. We played that game probably about 5 times, and I thought someone was going to die or my fence was going to fall down because the adrenaline level was just so high of people just pushing, and one side of the fence has this hill at the end, so you get crazy adrenaline kids after 20 minutes of gameplay, and then all of a sudden you're rolling downhill because you're about to win the game, and there was times when that buggy hit that fence so hard that I was like, did anyone die? Okay, we're good. And then we banned Death Buggy.
Clear the gate! Gate is clear. Hold up. Bayou, are you ready?
Yeah!
Isengard, are you ready?
Yeah! 3,
2, 1! Get it down! Oh, we got me. Got it. Go.
Send him home. Josiah, send him home. Go home.
That's it.
Rob, do you still have fun even though you played it this long?
Medic!
Oh, wait. Someone hit me.
Got me.
Wait, no, I can't. I'm dead. Sorry.
Okay. I don't know. I think you got me first. Go home. Medic.
Got you, Paige.
Medic.
Pull Brandon up. Come down. He's down. Down.
Woo!
of the first things I noticed about Cameron.
Failed vote population humor.
Quiet it up, I got it. Van Damme. One of the first things I noticed about Cameron, like, you know,
How about thee, thy foul knave?